Guys, Real 2K Insider here, and I want to break down the Boston Celtics. I went and reviewed all of the attribute changes that came in the November 3rd roster update, so we're going to go over them. I'm going to be imparting kind of my roster philosophies, like what's the point of these videos? It's really, I try to observe what 2K does so that I can see what their philosophies are and improve upon my own. It's not just, I don't make these videos just to like bash on them and like say like, oh hey, look at how stupid these guys are. Look at how smart I am. That's only part of it. Uh, like I'm gonna go through these attributes and we're gonna find some real head scratchers, and I'm gonna explain how they could have possibly done things differently in these scenarios when they come up. But let's start off by going over Jason Tatum, who at a 94 overall, +1 in the update. This season, he's been playing much better than he did last season at the start of the season. On the year, he's averaging 31 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, 50% from the field, 30% from three, 88% from the line, and 37 minutes per game. Last year, basically the same production, but 27 points per game. Uh, Actually, is that factually accurate, or did I mess up in my copying and pasting? I messed up in my copying and pasting. Last year, he shot 45% from the field, 35 from three, 85 from the line. So his efficiency is much improved. 45% last year, 50% this year. Yeah, that checks out. 65 true shooting on 32% usage. Last year he was 58%, and again, it's worth noting that he started off last season very slowly, only 50 true shooting in his first 21 games, and then he blew up in March, 68 true shooting, and he's basically been on a tear ever since, going into the playoffs and continuing along that. So he's been a man possessed over the last 8-9 months of the year. Driving layup, that's a +1. He's 39 for 55 from the field on layups this year, 71%. 49% of those are assisted. He's one of the better drivers in the NBA. Totally deserving of the marginal boost, but yeah, I think he should be 95 to a 99, somewhere in that range. Definitely one of the better finishers, and that's better production than what he did last year. Post fade, this is a +2, and post hook is a +2. Post control is a +5. Just going over post collectively. 1.4 post ups per 36 minutes this year. He's done it 15 times. Last year, 1.7. So I personally have him at like a 70 rating. They they decided to put him up to a 75. I can't speak to like where their internal scale is or whatever, but I'm totally with that. That's fine. Where you actually can take a little bit of issue is his post fade versus his post hook. This year, 1.0 fades per 36 minutes. Last year, 1.7 per 36. Uh, and post hook, 0.3 hook shots per 36 minutes. Last year, 0.1. So he barely takes hook shots, and he takes about 1 to 2 fadeaways in real life. So there should be a little bit more than a 6 point gap. I believe I personally had this like an 85 post fade, and then like something like a 55 probably for his hook. And that's honestly where I think most perimeter players should land. Like Tatum, his post game's kind of modeled after Kobe. Guards generally take fadeaways, and bigs generally take hook shots. So why not create some separation there? At least that's what I would do. Draw foul. This did not have a rating change, and it just kind of again speaks to I've been really torching 2K for this attribute. If you've watched any of my other videos, 8.5 free throw attempts per 36 minutes. Last year, 6.2. So he's taking significantly more free throws than he used to. He's getting to the line a lot more. He's getting fouled more. But there was no change to his attribute, and it's because he's already dumb high. So I personally have it even higher than a 92 based on what he's been doing this year. But, you know, a lot of inconsistencies there. If you recall from my other videos, Donovan Mitchell is like an 85, I want to say, and he takes 5 free throws per 36. So lower than Tatum last year. And, they really shouldn't be in the ballpark. Close shot, this is a +2. He's 19 of 43 from the field, 44% from the field, 37% assist rate. It's fine. He was a little better last year, probably just a little bit underrated to begin with, so I'm okay with that. The percentage doesn't always have to line up with the rating, depending on how much shot creation the player does, as taking difficult shots is going to lower your percentage. So the fact that it's only 44% doesn't really faze me. Same conversation with his mid range. 8 for 17 to start the year, 47% from the field, 50% assist rate. So he's creating a reasonable amount of the dribble. Totally fine with that. He was even better last season, so with that boost. +3 to his three, 34 of 92, 37% from the field, 68% assist rate. Again, 37% is normally like an 82-ish rating, but the fact that he's creating so many off the dribble bodes well for the quality. He's a good shooter. So free throw, this is a +5. He's at 88% on the season. He was 92% at press time, but obviously that wasn't going to hold. Like, he's generally been hovering around 85 to 87% for his career. I don't know what the fuck they're doing with the free throw rating this year, because I feel like I'm going over this for every other player that I review. And the attribute is not rocket science. The fact that they can't seem to get this down or understand how sample sizes work, etc., it gives me very low confidence about their ability to handle any of the other attributes reliably. Pass accuracy, this is a +4. Tatum's developed as a playmaker over the past couple of years, although nothing in his data, in his numbers, stands out that I would have gone out of my way to raise that. Offensive rebound, this is a +20, and this is a fucking lie. His offensive rebound rate has decreased from last season. It's 2.4%, which is a 37 rating, versus last year's 3.2%, which is the 41-42 that it was prior to this boost. He's got 8 offensive rebounds in 10 games. Like, why is his rating going up? I can tell you why his rating is going up. We'll back out real quick. It's because Tatum has been playing the 4 for the Boston Celtics. Last year he was at his natural 3, but with Robert Williams out, they've put Al Horford back at the 5, and they're starting Tatum. So because the power forward position in this game has a different formula than the small forward position, we're going to decrease Tatum's rebound rate wherever I can find it. Boom. That's how far down? Well, either way, they basically boosted his overall rating by a point. They probably couldn't figure out any other way to do it. And this is something that is not. This is something that's been in their bag, quote unquote, for a couple of years, like 20 years. They used to do this all the time with Dirk Nowitzki, giving him a much higher offensive rebound rate than he deserved because their formula can't understand that rebounding just isn't that important to power forwards anymore. And they continuously lie about, stretch forwards. Like Kevin Durant also would be another example of a player that doesn't grab offensive rebounds, that has a high offensive rebound rating. Ditto for LeBron James, etc. So, yeah, that's just one of those things they do to buff a player, and that affects his simulation stats. The Celtics are going to overperform relative to what they do in real life because Tatum's going to be grabbing probably like 10 rebounds in a simulation rather than 7. The rest of the attributes, shot IQ, that's a +8. The fact that he wasn't at a 98, when you look at some of the other players that have 98, 98 is the max rating that they generally give for whatever reason because they're afraid of giving out 99s because of whatever dumb philosophy they came up with 9 years ago or whatever. We're going to go through, and there's a player that we're going to cover that has a 98 shot IQ, and just remember that when we go over that Tatum had a 98 or had less than a 98 prior to this update. Interior defense, this is a +2. This is again just he's playing a power forward. They wanted to buff his overall rating a little bit to get him more in line with the formula that the position has. he has not been playing particularly great defense or anything. This is not performance based. The Celtics are getting murked defensively after being the best team in the league last season. They are, checking basketball reference, 23rd defensively. Where they've really made their calling card is on the offensive end because Tatum's been at the four. Other fours can't guard him, so they've been the best offensive team in the league by going small. But they've suffered on the defensive end, and we're going to go through and find out that they haven't had any defensive decreases really in this roster. If anything, they've slightly improved because of this. 57 block is a plus one. 3.3% block rate for Tatum, which is a double last season's rate of 1.6. And yeah, so he doubled his block rate, but he only got a 1 point boost. Let's think about that. They went through and they gave him a 20 fucking point boost to his offensive rebound rate, but then only plus one to his block rate. So they're not even consistent. Like if they just looked at the players and like how these numbers compare, they, they if they had just done plus 10 here, they probably wouldn't have needed to do plus 20 on his offensive rebound rate. It's so stupid. Strength rating. This is the first athleticism rating attribute that I've seen improved in this update. Generally, 2K doesn't touch these very frequently. Like Steven Adams, for example, hasn't had his strength rating updated in 7 years. He's had his rating updated once in his like 9 or 10 year career. He's an 82 strength, if I recall. And now Tatum's up to a 71. So Steven Adams is now within like 10, 11 points of Jason Tatum. I'm not saying that Tatum's strength didn't deserve to go up. That's more or less, they're just updating him for the same reason they updated his interior defense rating, because he's at the four now. They want to rate him more like a traditional four. But the rest of these attributes, they haven't been updated since the day he entered the league. I would have most of these a lot higher now that he's actually scoring off the dribble compared to what he was doing when he first came into the league. He was more of a role player in his rookie season, and now he's, the cog of the offense. And that's all the attribute changes for Jason Tatum. No badge changes, which is kind of disappointing. In my opinion, a lot of his badges are underrated. A lot of these silvers could become golds now that he's averaging 31 points per game. Yeah. Let's go on to Jaylen Brown. 88 overall rating, plus one in this update, and I was a little confused as to how that would be, because he's actually slightly worse than last season by the numbers. This season, averaging 25 points per game, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, 45 from the field, 34 from 3, 85 from the line, 37 minutes per game. Last season, 24, 6 and 4, 47 from the field, 36 from 3, 76 from the line in 33 minutes per game. So his shooting, for the most part, is pretty similar. He's shooting 9% better from the line, but 2% worse from 3. But really, what's been impacted most for him is his assists went down, even though he's playing 4 extra minutes. And there are reasons for that, which I'll get into once we get to those ratings. But 92 driving layup, this is a plus 2. And I'm not really sure why, because he's 39 for 73 from the field, which is 53%, and then he's assisted on 46% of those, so he's still creating off the dribble. But 53 field goal percentage, if we recall. So he was 39 of 73. Jason Tatum is 39 of 55. So the same number of field goal makes in 18 fewer attempts, which leads to an 18% field goal disparity. And yet there's only a 2-point difference between their rating. And this kind of goes back to last season also. I have Tatum at like a 99 and Tatum and Brown at a 90. So this really didn't need to go up. I'm not sure why it did, just because they wanted to boost his rating probably. His free throw, plus 3, 81. You know, I'm surprised this is an 88 the way that they've been rating free throw ratings this year, but you know he has shown improvement there, so I don't have an issue with it. It's worth noting that he was at 76% last season, but he had a 78 rating going into this season. So, and then the only other attribute that changed for him is offensive consistency. This is a +5. I generally use box plus minus in order to determine my consistency ratings. Jaylen Brown has a negative 0.3 offensive box plus minus. Jason Tatum has a 7.2, which is completely off the charts. But these guys are only separated by 3 points in offensive consistency. Like the engine for the team has definitely been Tatum. Brown is definitely the more erratic of the two. He's not an all-star player. He was an all-star 2 years ago, but he did not make the team last year. And again, he's slightly worse than he was last season offensively. So, you know, I don't think he needed to go up. If anything, maybe drop him by 5 points. But I said I was going to go over his playmaking. He's got the same pass ratings as Jason Tatum, even though he's not on the same level of him as a passer. 66 pass vision, 78 accuracy, 82 pass IQ. This is not Brown's calling card. His playmaking has been weak or below average pretty much his entire career. He posted like that improved the last 2 years when he was an all-star caliber player. Which is not to say he's not an all-star caliber player, but the main reason why his assist rate is down is he's playing up a position. He's playing at the 3 rather than the 2, and they're starting Derek White as like a secondary playmaker. So these two guys are operating more as like finishers. So their assist rates are both slightly down as they have two like playmaking guards in the starting lineup. They don't have to create as much. So as a result, I would probably have dropped Jaylen Brown's pass ratings. The fact that his archetype is a two-way, three-level point forward kind of tells me that his pass ratings are way too high. He's not the player that I would classify as like a point forward. But and likewise with Jason Tatum, his badges are like 25s at a reasonable number for him, but a lot of them are just underrated. He's got a lot of bronzes for a guy that you know was at an all-star caliber level over the last 2 years. So we'll hop into Derek White in a second. We're gonna go over Al Horford since he's next in line. 81 overall, -1. This season, averaging 10.6 rebounds, 2 assists, 51% from the field, 41% from three, 75 from the line, doing it in 32 minutes per game. Last season, 10, 8, and 3, 47 from the field, 34 from three, 84 from the line, 29 minutes per game. So the big takeaway is his rebounds. He's down 2 rebounds per game, even though he's playing 3 additional minutes per game. And offensively, his 3-point percentage is up to 41% from 34. So he's but his scoring rate is down, even though he's or not down. It's the same level. So this kind of tells me that he's got a lower usage rate. He's really just a spot up guy. His assist rate's a little down as well. But just going over his attributes so far that changed. 86 close shot is a -3. He's 5 for 8 from the field. You know, I don't know where that's really coming from. Mid-range shot, he's -6. Well, he's yet to actually take a mid-range shot this season. So, you know, I don't have him at a 96. I had him at an 80 last year. You know, so there's a little bit of correction going in here, but you know, what are they doing if he's that high to begin with? He hasn't been really a mid-range ever since he became more of a 3-point shooter. He hasn't really been doing a lot of damage from the mid-range, so maybe not having him rated like Kevin Garnett would help him become have reasonable ratings or have reasonable production relative to his ability. 3-point shot. I mentioned that he's shooting 41%. His 3 ball didn't go up, so that's worth noting. They adjusted the 2 ratings where he took the least amount of shots. Offensive rebounds, this is a -3, 3.6 offensive rebound percentage. Last season it was 6%, so he's rebounding. His rebound rate for this season would be like a 43, basically in line with what Tatum did last season. Obviously, they didn't want to tank his rating that hard, but that's it's still a little high. But I'm not willing to say, I do also recognize that the samples are still small, and you can't really say, like, oh, player X got like 10 points worse because all of a sudden they have a good game, and, then you look foolish. Everything has to go back up. Shot IQ is a 60. This First of all, this fucking rating is such arbitrary garbage. If the fact that you would think that Al Horford has a 60 shot IQ when he has like he's one of the smartest players in the NBA. He has got great shot selection. He's got a 64 true shooting on 12 usage percentage. Like, what the fuck are we doing here, guys? I don't. That's wild. Put a pin in this one also once we got to Derek White. But defensive rebounds, this is a -7. It's basically an 18% defensive rebound rate this year. He was at 22% last year, so pretty reasonable drop off. 81 block rate. This has been cut in half, and there was no change to his rating. 2.3 block percentage. Last year he was at 4.2%. This is like a 62 rating, so they could have gone -20 here, and they opted not to. Just want them to be consistent. No changes there. And offensive consistency, this is a -5, but like he doesn't really kill them offensively. I don't, I'm just gonna move on to the next one. No badge updates for him. The fact that he only has one shooting badge is probably a little suspect, but I digress. Derek White. Derek White, -1 overall, down to a 77. On the year, he's averaging 8 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, which is well below what he did last season. 13 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists. But his shooting percentages are much better this season. 45 from the field, 39 from 3, 80 from the line, playing 25 minutes per game. Last season, 42 from the field, 31 from 3, 80 from the line in 29 minutes. So he's got 58 true shooting on a career low 13 usage percentage. Also has a career low 14% assist rate. Last year, he was at 55 true shooting on 20 usage percentage and a career high 23 assist percentage. So the fact that his assist rate is at a career low indicates that he's obviously playing his assist rate and his usage rate are down. So he's playing a much smaller role than he used to offensively. Again, he joined the Celtics mid-season. Let me actually check that real quick. How his numbers were affected after the trade, because he played a different role with the Spurs than he did with the Celtics. All right, so with the Spurs last year, 55 true shooting, 25 assist rate, 21 usage. And then when he joined the Celtics, he was at 54 true shooting, so similar amount, 18% assists though, and then 18 on usage. So he did have a decrease in his offensive role when he joined the Celtics, and that's only continued. Obviously, they have Malcolm Brogdon as well in the second unit, so the opportunities that White had, like he's not really the backup point guard anymore. I think he was last season with he would be basically he would start, or no, he was straight up he wasn't starting at that point. He was just Marcus Smart's backup. So that makes sense. So that's why that's how those numbers were affected. But the big takeaway is that his three ball is he's shooting it much more efficiently, as he isn't creating as many off the dribble as he previously was. He's at 39% on the season. 85% of those are assisted. It is a +4 to his 3-point shot rating. But because He's not an offensive focal point anymore. Really just used as like a 3 and D type of player. They dropped his close shot rating by 10 points. He's 7 of 17 from the field on the year, 41%. 71% of those are assisted, which is basically 5 out of the 7 shots that he's made. So that in itself kind of tells me that he's not creating shots off the dribble at all. Generally, guards are going to be like 50% assisted from this range. It's still early, so there's some time to level that out, but it's just something to keep an eye on. And it's worth noting that last season he hit, like, he's a good scorer from this range. He shot 49% from like the 3 to 15 foot range last season. But if he's not going to be taking those shots in any type of volume, I can get behind a decrease. I would have had him a little higher than 89 to begin with, so like maybe my drop would be like a 94 to an 84, but I think it's pretty reasonable given his offensive role. And aside from that, shot IQ 98. No adjustment to this rating, but again, like if you've watched Derek White, you were saying that he has the same shot IQ as Jason Tatum, and or he had a higher shot IQ to begin with than Jason Tatum going into the year. Now they're equal, and he's now 38 points ahead of Al Horford, who again has a 64 true shooting on 12 usage. Derek White is 58 true shooting on 13 usage. Something to keep in mind. And only other attribute that changed was his offensive consistency. This was a 95. Now it's an 80. Obviously I can get behind that. He's not there's no reason he really should have been a 95 to begin with. He's got a negative 0.7 offensive box plus minus on the year, which is a slightly worse than Jaylen Brown, but also I don't anticipate Jaylen Brown. Like, Jaylen Brown's underperforming right now. Derek White is kind of, this is more or less who he is. And that was the four of the starters had their ratings adjusted. Marcus Smart dodged that bullet. And the next player on our list that got a rating update is Peyton Pritchard. So we're skipping over Grant Williams and Blake Griffin. He's a -1, and this one is just like so Pritchard's. I'm not gonna go over his stat line because he's played 17 minutes on the season. The ratings that changed for him are close shot -4. He's 0 for 2 from the field this year, and then mid range -2. He's 0 for 1 from the field this year. So okay, we're being petty like that, sure. And then the only other attribute that changed for him is his offensive consistency, which they dropped 10 points. He's got a negative 4.1 offensive box plus minus, but again, he's played 17 fucking minutes. If you wanted to drop his rating because he's not in the rotation, fine. I totally get that. Maybe you idiots could have dropped his intangibles rating instead. Why is this an 85? You didn't have to go through, like, you're jumping through fucking hoops like, oh, what attributes can we lower? Let's do this because he's shooting slightly worse. Whoa, like, if you want to drop his rating, maybe you invented that attribute for a fucking reason, right? And then Noah Vonleh is the last player that had a rating change, but he didn't actually have an attribute change. I checked this multiple times, but he dropped from a 74 overall to a 71, which is a -3, but none of his attributes changed. These are still the same that they were in NBA 2K21. So I think what happened, and this was the first place I went to, because you would think the -3 overall rating and none of his attributes, it's got to be his intangibles, but that's been a 35. So what changed, I think, was the formula. I think that because he was removed from the game, as he wasn't on a team last season and they had to re-add him to the roster once he began the season on the Celtics, I think that they copied him from an older version of 2K, like possibly NBA 2K21 rather than 2K22. And then when you copy and paste, like, it's using the overall rating that he had in that game, which had a different formula. So I'm going to guess that he had like a false 74 where sometimes when you're playing around in the editing menu, like the rebound ratings don't really reflect. Let me see if I can create this uh, with, let's do Vonleh. We're gonna max out his rebound rate and see if I can recreate this. So I got him up to a 75 rating. If I hit confirm, that 75 might not hold. No, it holds. I've done this before on stream. It was also on last gen, so I'm not sure. I haven't come across it yet on current gen, but it like recalibrates. And anytime, sometimes the overall rating I think is also factoring the archetype. Anytime you're shifting the archetype, it might be implementing like a different formula. Like a guy with high rebound ratings, a glass cleaner, is going to rate slightly differently than a stretch four. So maybe let's try it real quick with like where is he? Jason Tatum. I'm not sure if it's gonna work just um, because he's got the offensive ratings 95. Yeah, I can't recreate it. Sorry. This is, I guess, kind of detracting from my point. But basically, because his older overall rating got copied with possibly a different formula, he was 74 in an older version of the game. And then if you just like tweaked his attribute by any of his attributes, if you just like flicked it by one, it would have changed his overall rating by 3 points. So they might have just like corrected there. That's my theory on what it could be, because I again I went through all his attributes and I couldn't find anything. But yeah, those are all the those are all the overall rating changes for the Celtics. So kind of disappointing overall, given like what they're doing as a team. No update for Grant Williams. He's shooting. He has an 83 true shooting percentage this year. 2K, and we know 2K loves boosting 3-point ratings and whatnot, but Grant Williams 53% on threes this year. No overall rating boost. He's been their sixth man, and he's barely rated better than Blake Griffin, who isn't in their rotation. Sam Hauser 71 overall. Same conversation. 81 true shooting. He's shooting 50% from three or over 50%. He's hitting 5 threes per 36 minutes. He's the eighth man on this team, and he's basically rated like a two-way player in the same tier as like Luke Cornett, Kevin Gale, rated less than Justin Jackson, even though they play the same position and Hauser's ahead of him in the rotation. Oh my fucking god. So they miss the forest for the trees a lot of the time. They like tweak guys that they don't really have to, and like rather than focusing on like bringing down Peyton Pritchard's rating with like the nonsense that they did, they really should have been focused on just getting Sam Hauser up, so that he's closer to this group of players rather than this group of players, because that's a big fucking problem, major eyesore for this roster. Uh, yeah, and Luke Cornett also. Luke Cornett and Noah Vonleh, like Noah Vonleh 71 before I was tweaking around with him. These guys are also ahead of Blake Griffin and Peyton Pritchard in the rotation. They've been playable, but they still have ratings on par with the guys who were in the developmental league. So, there was a little bit of good up top with, Jason Tatum got an extensive update, but as per usual, once you get to like the mid to lower tier, 2K doesn't have any clue of what it's doing. They really only care about the top 100 players in the league. So as a roster editor, that's something that you kind of need to take into account, that if you are going to if you're going to work on rosters for whatever reason, know that the stars are usually going to be taken care of. It's the bottom of a roster generally where you can really make your mark and really make things more detailed, because they're just completely dropping the ball for everybody like 8 through 10. And while we're here, yeah, Hauser's not even in their rotation. They still have Blake Griffin and Peyton Pritchard. All right, so I've rambled on long enough. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you liked it, hit that like button, or give me a subscription. if you don't want to miss any more of my rating breakdowns, you can follow me on Twitter at Real2KInsider. And if you want all of this data, this is in my 2K spreadsheet that I've been building on for the last like 3 years. I go super in depth on everything. If you want access to this file, I'm now allowing it. If you send me a $20 donation, you can have access to my file for the duration of the 2K23 season. It is a steal of a deal when you compare like other roster creators are doing monthly Patreon stuff to get access to their data. I would posit that my spreadsheets are better than anything that's out there in the community, and I'm offering year-long access rather than monthly. So if any of that interests you, if you want to level up as a roster editor, hit me up. Otherwise, be on the lookout for future content that is going to be roster related. Peace out. Thanks.